I want to affirm that you are more than your community. All the essence of you is welcome here this morning. When I ask if there are any church announcements that need to be made, I have one. Just a reminder, the board meets tomorrow night via Zoom. Those board meetings are open if you should be interested and want to see the activities of the board. You would need to contact Molly to get a Zoom link, but they are open. We are advocates and hopefully models of political transparency. So anyways, it's 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Since Sharon's not in here yet, Friends Night Out is next, it's Wednesday the 16th, and it's on a Wednesday this time at Bonefish, which is a great place, 6 o'clock, and there's a sign-up sheet on the table, so please sign up. I think you probably need to sign up by that Sunday. Bonefish at March 16th, right, Sharon? 13th?
Wednesday is a Wednesday.
Wednesday, sorry, I'm the one messing up dates now. Sharon's rubbing off on me. It's next week, Wednesday, whatever the date is.
Okay, thank you.
13th is Wednesday? Yes.
Any, okay. Anyone online with an announcement? Okay, hearing none. Oh, yes.
Okay, so the service that I'll just go over the services that are coming up anyway. So oh man, I need to get reading glasses. So next week is going to be Recovering Misogynist, and then the Sunday after, and Josh is going to be leading that. And then on the 17th of March, it's going to be Ostera, or the Spring Equinox, and I'm going to be leading that. And so I have 2 possible children's stories to be read. So I'm looking for a volunteer to read, and you get to choose which story you read. So come talk to me after the service. And then after that, it's going to be, the topic will be on medicine. So.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know if there was a technological glitch or not. Any online announcements? Okay.
I don't think so. Thanks.
We do have a tradition here of recognizing visitors, and we don't want this to be a painful exercise. If you are a visitor today and are willing, if you would stand and tell us who you are, then we can greet you properly. Okay. Well, we also have a tradition here of greeting one another. And I continue to hear all the bad news about how isolated we are, and all the negative things that happen from that. So let's again actualize not being isolated, and stand up and say hello to one another, and spend a few moments. When I ring the chime, then we'll resume the service. So take a few minutes and say hello.
No reception here.
Yeah, I'm not getting any feedback either.
I'm not getting anything either.
Thorstein was always ready to take advantage of a good opportunity. He immediately set sail from Iceland, filled with dreams of earning a great fortune. But when he arrived, neither the king nor any of the court was much interested in Thorstein's skills as a fighter or a marksman. Instead, everywhere he went, he heard, "Ah, you're Ivar's brother. What a fine poet he is, such a musician." Thorstein grew tired of living in the shadow of his brother, and he decided to head back to Iceland. Ivar was sad to see his brother go. As he waved goodbye, he begged Thorstein to go directly to Asta, Ivar's one true love. "Tell her that I think of her day and night, and that I'll be back in the summer to ask for her hand in marriage." Thorstein nodded, and when he landed in Iceland, he kept his promise, at least so far as going directly to Asta's family farm. But instead of relaying Ivar's message, what do you think he did? He proposed to Asta. What was Asta to think? A younger brother would surely have consulted with his older brother before proposing. This could only mean that Ivar had found someone else. A little reluctantly, Asta agreed, and the couple were soon married. When word of the wedding spread to Norway, it was as though a black cloud descended over Ivar. He couldn't sing. He couldn't play. There was not an ounce of merriment in him. The king noticed, and he called Ivar to his side. "I can see that you're unhappy. Are you longing for adventure?" "No," mumbled Ivar. "Do you wish for your own farm?" "No." "Are you homesick for Iceland?" "No." "Then it can only be a woman," reasoned the king. "But that is no problem. There is no woman who will refuse you once she sees my seal on your proposal." "Not so," replied Ivar. "Well then," said the king, a little perplexed, "I do not wish to interfere with your affairs, but you must take your mind off this woman. Let me send you away on one of the ships heading south to Constantinople." "I am no warrior." "Let me buy you a farm." "I'm no farmer." "Let me take you on a tour to all the grand homes of Norway and introduce you to all the most beautiful women." "None will be as beautiful." "Ah," said the king, "then all I can think to offer is very humble. It is nothing compared to all the riches you have just refused. But if you would like, you are welcome to come to me every evening when the affairs of the court are through. You can dine with me and tell me all about your one true love." "I should like that very much," replied Ivar. And so it went. Every evening, when the affairs of the court were through, Ivar went to sit with King Eystein and tell his story. He told the king about Asta's beautiful blue eyes, her long flaxen braid, and her voice like a meadowlark. He told him about her family and his own and their farms. One story at a time, Ivar's dark cloud of sorrow lifted. One story at a time, the sun began to shine again for Ivar. Finally, he was able to make merry once more. It's hardly surprising that King Eystein came to be known as one of the great kings of Norway. And that's it.
Let's sing the children out. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. The opening words this morning are by Parker Palmer. Some of you may know him or of him. He is a Quaker writer, speaker. Some years ago, he was in town at First Presbyterian. I remember hearing him there. And this is part of an interview he had with Krista Tibbett at the old Speaking of Faith program. And part of his story is he had really deep and severe depression. This is not having a bad day depression. This is I can't do anything at all depression. And the setting for this is while that was happening, that people he knew in all good intention would come and try to, in effect, cheer him up, to remind him of how successful he was, what a good guy he was, that the outside was pretty, like today, you should get up and go. And he says that that kind of advice was really not helpful. He wound up feeling worse. And as part of that, he writes, he would have spoken this, it's written now. And we're going to come back to it as the service goes on. There was this friend of mine who came to me after asking permission to do so every afternoon about 4 o'clock. He sat me down in a chair in the living room, took off my shoes and socks, and massaged my feet. He hardly ever said anything. He was a Quaker elder. And yet, out of his intuitive sense, he from time to time would say a very brief word like, "I can feel your struggle today." Or further down the road, "I feel that you're a little stronger at this moment, and I'm glad for that." But beyond that, he would say hardly anything. He would give no advice. Somehow he found the one place in my body, namely the soles of my feet, where I could experience some sort of connection to another human being. And the act of massaging just, in a way that I really don't have words for, kept me connected with the human race. What he mainly did for me, of course, was to be willing to be present to me in my suffering. He just hung in there with me in this very quiet, very simple, very tactile way. And I've never really been able to find the words to fully express my gratitude for that, but I know it made a huge difference. It became for me a metaphor for the kind of community we need to extend to people who are suffering in this way, which is a community that is neither invasive of the mystery nor evasive of the suffering, but is willing to hold people in a sacred space of relationship, where somehow this person who is on the dark side of the moon can get a little confidence that they can come around to the other side. In our community, we take time each week to share the stories of our lives because everyone's story is important. And we do that by, if you have a joy, sorrow, now we would take a few moments of quiet time, which time you can pray, meditate, quiet, take deep breaths. After a few minutes, that kind of centering, we will break that by saying, We want to share a couple of quick thoughts, so perhaps then we can flesh them out in our discussion. Talked a couple of weeks ago about words, and some words are big words, so lots of meaning and information. It struck me that presence would be one of those big words. And when I came across this passage, the passage read by Harper, how helpful it was for someone to just be with him in this situation, as opposed to trying to fix it. It really struck me. Partly because, as a middle child Virgo, I won't or at least if it's beyond me to find someone or advise people to fix it, kind of thing like, well, you know what they ought to do, kind of thing. All of which would be way off the mark, and that's why, for me anyway, this piece was so instructive that at least it gives me the time to think about things or any situation, some kind of relationship. Just being with someone is enough or more than. The other words that struck out to me in this thing were connection and relationship. So if we're not connected or have a relationship, foster it would make little to no sense. And I think we're not going to be that close to everybody, but as part of our faith life here, we can at least try to develop that consciousness amongst us. So wherever we find ourselves in that kind of connection and relationship, we would have the emotional and moral maturity to just do that, to just be with somebody in their situation. And in Palmer's case, it was the pain of his depression, but it could be anything. And one caution, though, in our lives, not every situation lends itself to that. Some situations actually do need action and to fix it. And, you know, we need, again, to have the wisdom to know the difference between what will require something to be fixed right away. Again, thinking of injuries, if God forbid someone would have a heart attack, we'd need to respond right away. There's no time to sit around and think about that, but there may be other situations and when it would be absolutely appropriate. And Palmer's insight, I think, is a great corrective for those of us who have the propensity to want to fix things. And so it's very instructive in that regard. One thought I had too was, what about collective presence? Does that translate to any corporate activity? And the closest I came up with that, and you may have other thoughts, is solidarity. So that we could be in solidarity with people who are working to correct injustices or just to improve things, even if our relationship is not so close as to be physically present in their situation. I would just, two other ancillary thoughts. One is just about suffering in general. And I want to think about this from we're about to enter Holy Week, and there's going to be stuff all in the paper and around, and since it's a majority Christian area, there's going to be a lot of stuff with Jesus on the cross, and that he suffered for our sins and whatever, so that we can then go to heaven. I just want to say that within Christian thinking, that notion is rejected, that the notion of Jesus' suffering is that the divine is actually present in our suffering. The way Palmer talks about it, that then we can, if we know that or have belief in that then you can get through to the other side. So it's not suffering as a punishment or a test. It's that our lives are going to encounter suffering, and that the cross story is about that rather than some cosmic bargain to get us to heaven. The Buddhists have a much richer notion of how to deal with suffering, I think, than what we may have talked about with the Good Friday Easter story that we're going to hear in a couple of weeks. The other thing, which is even more ancillary, but it struck me, that the person that Palmer talks about, he refers to as an elder, and he refers to him as a wise person. And it strikes me, I know Deborah's work around Croning does that for women, honors women, the stages of their lives, and that there's a stage of wisdom that's, both culturally and spiritually very important. That's helped me or prompted me to think about where are the men in that? Where are wise men? How do we mark that? Are there celebrations for it? Do we just assume that men are wise or not wise? Anyway, that kind of jumped out to me as well. But I invite you now just to think about presence, to think about the richness and the import of the word, and to think about when persons have been present to you in that real rich and meaningful sense, not in some pietistic obligation, but that your relationship fostered such a deep presence that may be healing and meaningful to you. So, what do you think?
Mine is not about presence per se, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little more about what you were saying about suffering. I'm not sure I completely understood.
Well, what's informed me is more the Buddhist notion, is that it's just part of life. No one wishes for it, but it's going to be part of life. And our training and development of either communities of faith or families or whatever is to instruct people that you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have some disappointment. Some things are not going to work out. But then how do you respond to that? And is that all there is? And the Buddhists would say, no, because nothing's permanent. It's going to transpire. I'm saying also that in terms of what's about to transpire in terms of Christian story about Jesus on the cross, that it's a similar notion that our lives may encounter or will encounter suffering, but that's not the whole story, and there's something on the other end, in that it's not an abandonment of the holy, and it's not a test or a punishment. It's just our lives. And to be fully human, we need to know that and have the emotional maturity to deal with it, which also may inform how we could be present to people in their suffering, because we know that it's just part of how we live. Does that? Anyone online? It's a quiet group this morning. He'll usually help me out. Yes. Can you come to the mic? Well, they can't hear you online. And I've been deemed with that before, so so help an old man out.
Okay, good. So I pulled this thing off Instagram. Better? Okay, so I pulled this quote off of Instagram about a month ago and sent it to Mark as something we might want to adopt for our own relationship. It says, "My mom told me, your dad and I got in the habit of asking each other, do you want comfort or solutions, when the other was having a hard time? And that one sentence can save an argument 9 out of 10 times." So.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Well, thank you. Yes.
I've participated in some 12-step programs where, I'm in the presence of someone else who is struggling, and sometimes the best action is no action. There's a saying that people turn on its head where we say, don't just do something, sit there, or one that I use a lot is wait. Why am I talking? Because when I talk, I tend to talk too much and get myself in trouble. So sometimes I'm better if I just sit and listen. Because another thing, somebody that's close to me that we call a qualifier in our 12-step program, said, just listen. Don't sit there and think about what you're going to say next. So those are things that I think apply to this, just being present, whether it's for suffering or joy. So.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that broadens the notion. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can we be heard? Can we?
I think the generations that are here now find this concept very challenging because we have so many distractions that the concept of presence, just being present to ourselves and to one another without a text, without our phone, without any other distractions, without paying attention to the noises around us, the digital electricity around us, that's really, really hard. I mean, it's really, really hard in general, just to be present and listen to ourselves, let alone to another person. I mean, and I don't mean, and when I say listen, I don't mean to their words, but to listen to their being, to be present to them, even when they're not speaking, and to just be with them in that moment, in that quietness, that it's incredibly challenging. It's hard enough for us to do that with ourselves, let alone with someone else. But that's a gift that is without price. And we don't teach each other how to do that.
Thank you. Let me just say too, one of our instructors about this are our animal companions, or is our animal companions. I think most of us have had experiences when there's just some intuition that they would know and they would be with us, period. Anyone online? Yes.
Hi, I have something to share, and this kind of pertains
Yeah,
to,
there's something we can't hear. I'm sorry.
They still can't hear us. Sorry, Michelle, Deb.
Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
We
Okay.
can in our small
And if you
group,
type, can
but
they
they
read it?
can't
'Cause
at
I don't know.
church.
I mean,
So sorry.
as a proud Luddite, this is out of my league, so. Okay. Well, I'm so sorry. It's the best we can do. So we'll go ahead. Well, thank you all, as always, for your attention and indulgence. And I always learn stuff from you all, so thank you very much. Our closing hymn is in the teal hymnal. It's number 1021, Lean on Me. And I know you're going to say we sung it last week, which is true, but it is it's a great hymn. It's fun to sing, and it does speak about being in relationship. So I couldn't pass it up. So stand if you're willing and able, and we'll sing this together. Cool, thank you. If you'd remain standing, please, as we extinguish the chalice. The words are in the bulletin. We extinguish this flame. Not the light of truth, unity, fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts till we are together again. For closing words, I want to read again a portion of Parker Palmer's response, our conversation. What he mainly did for me, of course, was to be willing to be present to me in my suffering. He just hung in there with me in this very quiet, very simple, very tactile way. And I've never really been able to find the words to fully express my gratitude for that. But I know it made a huge difference. It became for me a metaphor of the kind of community we need to extend to people who are suffering in this way, which is a community that is neither invasive of the mystery nor evasive of the suffering. What a beautiful phrase. I have to interject. But is willing to hold people in a space, a sacred space of relationship, where somehow this person who is on the dark side of the moon can get a little confidence that they can come around to the other side. Go in peace, and may your living bless the world.
Bye.